He was a military professional, a perfect officer and gentleman. And his leadership is simple. It was simply to set the example to all those who serve with him as well as those who follow him. He was the skydiver who would jump out of the plane with his parachute, but at the same time carrying a box of beer for his boys on the ground when he lands. He was also a disciplinarian insofar as duties and responsibilities are concerned. He stood as a model of what a soldier, a Filipino soldier should be. And we all saw that, we all recognized that, and he demonstrated that he can do what everyone under him can do.
He led by example, as well as he was a man who mastered timing, and he empowered his team and managed by objectives. That's how he got things done. I've personally internalized 9 words that President Ramos came across to me as a code on how to be a better Filipino for a better Philippines. First is UST, Unity, Solidarity, and Teamwork. The second is CSD, Caring, Sharing, and Daring. But there's a third set of 3 words: Reform, Perform, Transform. And that to me was a code that I had internalized. And I said, people listened to President Ramos and not consider those 9 words as a mere political slogan, we would be better off as a nation today.
I never knew him before. I just knew him as general. And one of the things that marked that relationship was not a boss, but he was a caring boss. He wanted to know who my husband was. He wanted to know who I cared for. He wanted to know why he could not make me learn golf on Sunday. And that was the caring that we all just required to work 24/7.
At the end of his term, the Ramos agrarian reform broke the curse of agrarian reform. It distributed the highest number of titled lands in the history of agrarian reform, a record still being held now. It hastened the resolution of agrarian cases, and its model of agrarian reform communities is still extant.
He engaged particularly the interfaith group to be his sounding board on national issues. He is a person who has shown competence, who has shown determination, vision for the good of the nation. I consider him my best president.
He was the best president in the post-EDSA period. He was also the most accessible president. He had a weekly press conference every Wednesday in Malacanang and gave exclusive interviews to all media organizations that would make a request. But for the Malacanang press corps during his time, he was the most boring speaker. Alam bakit? We were bombarded with his slogans, UST, or Unity, Solidarity, and Teamwork, in every speech, but it was effective in his governance.
He was the father of many things. He was the father of the BOT law. The PPP that the President had said was born out of President FVR's genuine concern for build, operate, and transfer projects with the private sector. That's how it started. The brainchild of reform in the energy sector was no other than our dear President, President Fidel V. Ramos. We could not have peace in Mindanao if it wasn't for our President, President Fidel V. Ramos. He was the one who took the first steps towards peace with the MNLF, our brothers in the Moro National Liberation Front, with Chairman Noor. It paved the way for the structure that was needed. Just and lasting peace for a political structure, which was the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao.
Among his foremost contributions was reinforcing a policy framework that allowed private institutions to participate more actively and meaningfully in national development. The Build, Operate, Transfer law became the blueprint, not just for the Philippines, but also for other countries that learned from our pioneering example on how public-private projects can be impactfully and properly done. Many of us remember the debilitating power crisis of the 90s. President Ramos and then Energy Secretary Del Lazaro engaged the private sector to address this issue in less than 3 years, which allowed many other industries to flourish. A beneficiary was telecommunications, where President Ramos facilitated new investments and a more dynamic and competitive playing field. Globe Telecom was born out of this period. Today, Globe touches the lives of more than 60 million Filipinos, fostering meaningful connections while allowing new possibilities through digital technologies. These would not have been possible without President Ramos's vision and tenacity.
President Ramos established solid foundations for the country's future. I would also like to honor him for his remarkable foresight, integrity, and resolute will to improve the lives of all Filipinos. In 1995, President Ramos saw a looming water crisis due to leakages, a growing population, and decades of underinvestment. He enabled the private sector to offer its expertise to improve water services. President Ramos was instrumental in the birth of Manila Water. We thank President Ramos for planting the seeds for all these milestones. Through these achievements that he made possible, Manila Water became a prime global example, documented and taught by many institutions, including Harvard Business School and the Asia Development Bank, on how water privatization can be properly done. President Ramos so deeply loved our nation that he did whatever was necessary to give the Filipino a better life, guided by the principles of fairness and integrity. This was his gift to all of us. Truly one of the greatest Filipinos to have lived.